Hello, and welcome to Courageously Kind. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Liz.
And today, we are going to continue to have a conversation that we had earlier in our podcast days about face equality and representation. This came up due to a recent situation, whatever you want to call it, instance of misrepresentation.
Yeah, so you know that Halloween was last week, right?
Yeah.
Last week? So long ago, it feels like.
Time doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't. So Halloween is one of our favorite holidays. It's the day after our birthday. Wink, wink, nod, nod. And it's a wonderful holiday. So fun.
So fun. Who doesn't love candy? Who doesn't love dressing up? We love kind of spooky stuff.
Love it.
Love it. So fun.
But unfortunately, this holiday is often a day full of misrepresentation and stereotypes. And it can often start as a fun event and then lead into a night of
harm to other people.
Yeah.
Perhaps unintentionally.
Yeah.
Out of ignorance.
Yeah.
Ignorance is not a bad thing.
No.
You can always learn. We're always
Right.
learning, always, and you can unlearn thought patterns that may have been harmful. So ignorance is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
There are people out there like us today that are going to help you be aware of these issues and help you to not be ignorant anymore.
Yeah.
So, what we are talking about is the #NotAWitch movement. You may have seen it on our Instagram. We did share something about it. But we felt like it was important enough to do an episode about it. Kind of stay up to date with current events and just kind of share our thoughts.
Yeah.
So, if you're unaware of the Not a Witch movement, basically, I guess it was last week the movie came out?
Yeah.
Or a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure.
Around Halloween.
Around Halloween, a new movie came out called The Witches, and it's an adaptation of the book The Witches by Roald Dahl. Very famous author. He wrote things like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda, the BFG. And Roald Dahl was one of my favorite authors as a little kid. I loved his stories. Yeah. And I loved his books. But once this film came out, a lot of people recognized some issues that need to be addressed.
Specifically with Anne Hathaway's character.
If you don't know, the whole premise of the movie, I guess, is that you can never tell who is a witch. Witches sort of hide themselves. You never know who the bad guy is. I don't know. I didn't watch the film. I haven't read the book. But Anne Hathaway's character is portrayed as a villain. An evil character.
Probably the main antagonist.
Yeah. And she's depicted with missing fingers, or I guess I should say less than 10 fingers, and facial scars, and also hair loss. 3 things that should not be depicted as scary, should not be depicted as evil, and people who actually have these conditions in real life should not be depicted as such either.
Correct. It seems that Hollywood is always trying to preach inclusivity. You know, you watch any film and it's always the underdog that wasn't popular, didn't have many friends, you know.
Was different.
Right. Different.
Yeah.
In quotes.
Yeah.
It's like Hollywood's version of different is actually normal.
Pretty normal, right.
Right. And so what is disheartening is that Hollywood doesn't even consider this to be harmful.
Right. We want to preach inclusivity, and I think we're getting there, particularly with race inclusivity. I think we're getting towards being more diverse, but we also need to be more inclusive of people with visual differences, people with disabilities, people with different conditions that, exist in the real world. They're out there, but we don't always see them represented in TV and film. So, a lot of people have spoken out about this. A lot of people saw that this was an issue and spoke out, and we want to thank them for bringing this to our awareness, because I wouldn't be aware of this if it weren't for, the advocates out there.
Right. I think we are so conditioned. Like, this did not surprise me.
Right.
It didn't shock me. I think we're so conditioned to be, have the thought process of, that's the way it is.
Right.
And
there's nothing we can do to fix it. But now more than ever, in the age of social media, we can talk about these issues.
Right.
We can make people aware that what they're doing can be harmful.
So hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Yes. And hopefully we move toward accurate, positive representation.
Yeah.
So this movement blew up. This Not a Witch movement became very popular. News outlets like the Today Show, the Los Angeles Times, US Weekly picked up these stories and shed light on this issue and amplified the voices of activists. And this is not a slam on anyone that was involved in the movie. We love Anne Hathaway. She's a brilliant actress. I truly think she just was unaware of this.
Yeah. And what boggles my mind and kind of breaks my heart is that, everybody... did you hear that voice? Everybody in this production was so unaware and so ignorant, and they all profited off of it.
And they're all continuing to profit off of it. Anne Hathaway did issue an apology, which we have here, and we will share on our Instagram probably. She did apologize to the limb different community.
But she did not apologize to the facially different community.
Or to people with conditions with hair loss.
Yeah.
Because that was an issue too.
Right.
And I'd like to think that it was just, again, ignorance. It wasn't brought to her attention that not only was the limb difference portrayed negatively, but also the facial difference, the scar, and the hair loss was portrayed negatively as well.
Right. And I think what Miss Hathaway failed to understand is that at the end of the day, she could wipe that makeup off and go back to her mansion in Beverly Hills and not have to deal with the mockery and the stigma and, the staring that real people have to deal with.
Absolutely.
She could take it off
and go back to her life and still make money.
Right.
Exactly. So, here's the deal, friends. We are not the type of people just to present you with an issue and then not give you a solution. We're not going to say, yep, this is terrible. This sucks. Bye. We have a solution, and we would like you to listen, and we would like you to consider this solution. Basically, what needs to happen is we need to stop portraying villains and antagonists and people that are scary with facial, visual, physical differences. We need to stop doing that. And you might think that it doesn't happen that often, but it does.
It does.
This is a perfect example. Another example is the new James Bond movie. Rami Malek is portraying the villain, and has scars all over his face. When we see those characters with those characteristics, we correlate,
Right.
correspond a physical visual difference with scary,
Right.
evil. It's dehumanizing.
Yeah. And we wonder why our children are afraid of these differences. We wonder why, our children are uncomfortable. And it's because they see the commercials.
Exactly.
And they see the movies. And they see the cartoons. Scar from the Lion King.
Yeah. And now we're not saying that The Lion King is awful and you shouldn't watch it,
No.
but we're taught from an early age to equate these things with fear.
Right.
And that needs to stop.
Right. And how it can stop is that we can talk about it.
And we can continue to talk about it.
Right. And call it out when we see it.
Yes.
And say, hey.
That's not really okay.
Right.
You can go about this differently.
Right.
So, number 1, we need positive representation.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, if you're a parent, talk to your kids.
Yeah.
Kids are so willing to learn. Kids learn faster than probably anyone else.
Yeah.
And if you just explain to them that there are people out there that look different, maybe much different than them, but they're humans, and they're kind, and they're considerate, and they are not evil, they are not scary.
Right, they're just like you.
They're a person just like you. Yeah.
Before we leave you, we wanted to share some quotes and some thoughts.
And we wanted to thank these people for
Yes.
speaking up about these topics. We'll start with a quote from Phillida Swift, who works with Face Equality International, an organization that we have come to love. She said, "I do not want to continue to live in fear of children finding my face scary due to film and TV using my actual face as a character device."
Yeah.
So true. And you might think that children don't find it scary, but they do.
Right.
We've experienced it firsthand.
Yeah. And it goes back to, I'm sorry, I kind of cut you off.
All good.
But it goes back to the fact of Anne Hathaway could take off that makeup and she doesn't look, quote, scary.
Right. Real people can't do that.
Right.
Another quote is from activist Jen Campbell. And she said, "When you see damaging tropes like this, please challenge them. Have conversations with your friends and help us do the work." That's what we're trying to do today. We're trying to have this conversation with you so that you can be thinking about this the next time you see a damaging trope, such as the misrepresentation of a physical difference.
And you can call it out and you can say, you know what? I don't think I want to support that.
I'm not going to go see that movie because I don't want to continue to perpetuate this stereotype.
Right.
Another quote is from Megan Elizabeth, and she said, "Education and representation is mandatory. We must stand together as a limb-different community, pushing for education and fair representation." That's all anybody ever wants,
Right.
is fair representation.
Yeah.
Some more quotes from activists that we love are from Savannah at My Kind of Normal. She said, "We can't change the way the world sees disabilities on our own. We need help from you."
That's so true. I feel like people who are deemed as normal need to amplify the voices of people who are different.
Absolutely.
Because for so long, the people that are different are trying to, amplify their own voice, and the people who are deemed normal are drowning them out.
Yes. Another activist, Katrin Pugh, said, "The new Witches movie is adding fuel to this fire with an insensitive, thoughtless portrayal of what is deemed as scary. We need to stop labeling people that are different as scary. We need to stop fearing differences.
Yeah.
Period."
Yeah.
So we'll leave you with that. Differences are not scary,
Don't
friends.
fuel the fire.
Don't fuel the fire. Another activist, Kaylee Flaker, said, "This perspective is incredibly flawed, and we should not reinforce these social stigmas in mainstream media."
Sums it up right there.
Sums it up. We ask that if you found this podcast to be educational and helpful and you may have learned something, please share this.
Yeah.
Help us get this message out there. Help us show the world that people with differences aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And we will continue to advocate for them. And we will continue to advocate for fair representation.
Absolutely. Just a little t-shirt update before we let you go. Oh, we're 15 minutes.
Long one this week.
Little t-shirt update. We have t-shirts available. Sizes are limited, and we will be posting what sizes we still have throughout the week.
Great. Can't believe how long this episode was.
Yeah, just rambling.
We love you so much. Thank you for listening to us. And continue to listen to people out there. Everyone has something to say, and these messages are important.
Yeah.
We love you. Have a great week.